I'm gonna go back in time with Count Dankula. Well, actually, Count Dankula released a brand new video called Absolute Mad Lads Hiro Onoda. And Hiro Onoda was the man who held out after the war for over 28 years. And he's a legend of historical weirdness, but
we hear a lot about
we only got a clip notes of that he's actually served as a guerrilla for 28 years post Second World War. Let's hear the whole story. That's more interesting than just seeing the clip notes of things, right?
We hear a lot about how some wars never end up here. You've all seen Jarhead, and you've seen how the soldier...
And it's a cliche that in most military movies you will see... I mean, it's partially true, but it's also been hyper-dramatized of what actually happens with servicemen. Though, then again, it's not constant. I should not be speaking off the cuff as I've not experienced it myself. It's all up to individuality. Some men just can't get out of it. Some men just tend to. It just... Maybe it's just a regimental lifestyle. Maybe it's also just how you serve.
Of the world have
or what you serve.
Humanity stripped away and get molded into killing machines. Just to sit on their arses in the middle of the desert for half a year while the tension of go time coming at any moment chips away at their psyche. And then the Air Force decides to leave their cushy 9-to-5 office job for once and completes the Marines' 6-month deployment in about an hour. So when the psychological release of...
Which is unfortunate because a lot of the, I remember seeing, this is more lighthearted, after Maduro got captured, I remember seeing a bunch of dudes, a bunch of millennial guys who were like, are you fucking kidding me? I sit in the desert for how many fucking years waiting for something, and these motherfuckers get to go into Venezuela and topple a dictatorship in an hour? That's some old Gen-Z bullshit.
Fulfilling their one function.
You know, most of the guys are millennials who are actually on those
for stress for so long never comes. Is it any wonder that so many veterans develop crippling PTSD despite not having ever even seen actual combat? After all, if you don't get to settle your business in the desert...
Schrogar, what the fuck did you make?
You don't leave the desert. Once a Marine, always a Marine. And what makes all of this even worse is that war doesn't stay on the battlefield anymore. Long gone are the days where a soldier could have a weeks-long march home to decompress and process his experience with the boys before returning to civilian life. And now, with all of that drone nonsense, bureaucratized rules of engagement, getting people mutilated and killed when they could have...
I hate the drone footage. I fucking hate. And it's not something I even seek out. It's when I got accidentally showed it on my timeline, or you'll get like those recommendations on YouTube where they'll do censor drone footage of us actually reviewing the combat scenario between the Russians and the Ukrainians during the war. I hate it. I fucking hate it. And this is like, I'm not even talking about the actual Predator drones that we used for the longest time, which actually did a lot more like fucking gnarly in what they could do, but talking about the Marty drone combat where with the kamikaze ones, it's just, my god. It's... There's still some people who who still try to hold on to the Ukrainia, you know, the Slava Ukrainia, or the Vatniks that are like also trying to hold into the Russia, like the very hard Russia thing. So in all this conflict, where it's like most people, their mother had forgotten about the conflict, which is kind of disgusting to see how quickly we forget about horrible things that go around the world. But more importantly, because well, actually most of us have a life to focus and worry on. But more importantly, with the Ukraine thing is that they are infamously, and unfortunately and depressingly, Ukraine is a conflict that I don't think we should... I feel like that you still have these people that try to play the Marvel superhero thing, which I'm not keen. A lot of them are doing like a Marvel, my favorite character stands with Ukraine. Look at this funny video of this Russian kid getting blown up. Yeah, do I really want to see an 18 or 17-year-old Russian soldier, basically new conscript who's begging, sobbing, be prodded with by fucking kamikaze drones that will eventually blow up and maim him in the worst way possible as he bleeds out? No. For Christ's sake. I'm just trying to say here that he's right. The new age of drone combat's really just made things all the more horrifying in the worst way possible.
fairly
Where there's
easily
less glory and there's more horror.
gotten through otherwise, warfare
Not like
becoming
war had much
unbearably
glory to
fake
begin
and
with.
gay, and the general abolition of the warrior spirit, there is a lot more to process than ever. Which is really hard to do when instead of having a nice long march home, a red-eye flight will get you from hell on earth to your house within just a few hours. It's no wonder that the common soldier gets spiritually Hotel California'd by war these days.
Okay.
But that's not what we're talking about today.
Don't worry, a military company already made a counter to a drone. I know about not the EMP systems, but the ones that basically cut the relay that disrupt the signal feed to the drones to the operators. I know about those. I also know the nets. What is it? Just a bullet shower? I don't. At that point, maybe.
Because we're not talking about the war never ending on a spiritual level, nor am I referring to an underground, abstract, some of us never stopped fighting, lost cause sentiment, or the masculine desire to become a citizen of outer heaven.
Hell yeah!
Nope, it's much dumber than that. This soldier literally never stopped fighting because he didn't know that the war had actually ended decades ago.
I didn't hear no fucking bell. Round 57. Let's go. Onada. The war's over. It's nearly 3 decades old. It's been gone. Dude, I beg of you. I didn't hear no bell.
Hiro Onoda.
Oh, jeez. Oh, thanks, Charlotte. Rhine Metal showcases its Skynex air defense system, countering a swarm of small drones with 35mm rifle. I'm sorry, excuse me. So it's a smart targeting system. 35mm revolver gun marks. Back to combined arms warfare. Holy shit, so it is basically just shooting the drones out the sky. That's awesome.
Please leave a like and a comment on this video because it...
Like, I guess maybe, once again, if you're talking about the guys who do... Okay, talking about the Unsubscribed podcast, and you're especially talking about from Habitual Line Crosser's point of view, because he how much intel he's over the military, he is military. The solution, just spam bullets. Exactly. That's kind of what Habitual Line Crosser talked about, where it's like drones aren't going to be the end of warfare. We're just going to change tactics, and then eventually drones themselves will be outclassed. Drones adapt. We're still seeing that. Once again, it was a big shock, especially the kamikaze drones. We got to realize, the more smaller nations or smaller insurgent groups like the cartels begin to fuck around with the drones, especially down in on the border. They already did it once and shot down San Antonio traffic. Do you think the U.S. is going to fucking roll over and let that happen? They're already probably just looking for the moment to say, oh, we can finally test a new toy out. Okay, go send this out. I know this is Rhine Metal that developed this for the Ukrainian front, but my brother in Christ, I don't think the U.S. is that far behind on what they have, or, I mean, not even far behind. I think what they have is far away. What we know of, I think they're just waiting to see if they can test their new toy in the right manner.
It really helps me in the algorithm. February is the season for good old-fashioned loving. Can't you just smell it in the air?
I hate February. I hate Valentine's. I hate fucking love. Love isn't real. Love does not exist. I'm so lonely. So lonely. So sad and so lonely alone. The U.S. Marine patent levitation tech last year. I'm sorry, what? I'm sorry, what? 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 Charlemagne, please say psych right now. Please. Say psych right now. I don't want Call of Duty Advanced Warfare to be the battlefield I'm going to be conscripted on. Please, Charlemagne, please don't say that.
I would, but
I
I'm
want
not
to die in Modern Warfare 2, not in Advanced Warfare.
interested in any of that romantic nonsense. This year, I am eschewing my annual tradition of going out in my nappy to shoot arrows at couples who just want some alone time.
Brendan showed that in a video last year. I must have missed it then.
In favour of assembling a crack team to strategically blast my enemies into smithereens.
Wait a minute, this isn't a fume ad. That noise, that music. Oh no!
Because the only one that I need in my life
is
my boy, or in this case, your boy,
no!
Raid Shadow Legend.
Oh fuck. Oh god. It's returned. The Forsaken One.
Not only do I love making everyone I come across...
Like, I know how annoyed and how much we made fun of Raid Shadow Legends, but truth be told, how many YouTubers survived the apocalypses and COVID to keep making their content and succeed because of Raid alone? Like, Count Dankula especially, but like, in all sincerity, this is what kept people going. And they apparently they paid well, depending like on your view count and your stream count when you do stream stream sponsors. They did pretty well. And I don't know where they get their money from. I don't want to know where they get their money from, but hey-o.
Cry in the PvP arena as their champions fall before me with AAA tier graphical fidelity, but I also love collecting my own roster.
Because the scary thing is too, is that not only did Raid is slowly crawling the back way into making more sponsorships, because I'm not sure who the fuck is playing Raid, but apparently they must have enough, or must be enough of a laundering scheme. I don't know. But apparently BetterHelp has also returned, unfortunately. But they're trying to promote themselves. Like, we actually learn from our past, and we're not going to talk about our past, but we supposedly learn from it. Apparently, BetterHelp was trying to, as last year especially, I saw a lot of it. BetterHelp was trying to crawl back into the limelight.
Of champions and exploring the massive range of team builds that all of their different abilities provide. And what's even better is the fact that acquiring new champions is easier than ever, thanks to shards. While it's tempting to put our enemies in the crystal, this is our chance to get our top guys out, because shards can be used to summon champions from the portal in your bastion. And the rarity of
because, you know, this is as a time of watching, this is 6 days old, this video, I'm not going to skip the ad because Dankula needs his money.
Champions you can get with each type of shard is color-coded. And every pull is useful because even if you pull a few duds, you can sacrifice them to level up your top guys. So let's see what we can find for ourselves in these shards.
Fang Cleric.
Okay.
Fang Cleric, Spiky Man.
Oh, that's hideous. I'm sorry, Dankula. You look like Barry. You look like Barry, the lad. You look like Self FC's lad Barry. Where's your point, Mike? Where's your point? Also, I think I can generate Serena in the PS5 profile pixel. Oh, you mean Persona 5? I think we've done that before. I think we made Serena, who is our current channel mascot, the AI girl that's presenting me on Kick on the ticker here, which you'll see right there. She is my little Vanna White. Serena, I mean, Char, basically, you and I conceptualized her, but Serena is, we've done that before, and I believe we gave her the voice of Chie, like Chie's VA, as the AI voice for Serena beforehand. You can do that if you want. I mean, once again, she's just a shitpost until we get our actual channel girls up and running. I'm not going to abandon her, but I'm going to want her properly rendered as an actual design. But Serena is going to be our little side piece here. Yeah, go ahead if you want to.
Miruka. We've got Miruka. So I'll see if I can get a legendary. Old Hermit George.
Barry Ballsack. it's Lizzo.
Yes.
It's Lizzo. I love it.
Whether you're on PC or mobile, there is no better time to get into Raid, because you can unlock exclusive bonuses through my link or with the QR code on the screen. The second you download Raid, you're hooked up with a starter pack containing the legendary support champion, Narma the Returned. And when you get to level 15, you'll unlock epic Chonaru of Shadowkin Fate.
Charlemagne. Oh, this is much nicer. Chinese Dommy Mommy. She's probably still short, though. I can take her on.
And if that's not enough for you, you also have the chance to choose one of 6 promo codes to take on a
The fuck is that? Pure Contail. Jesus Christ. Razzlebar, that's interesting.
champion of your choice, with my personal favourite being Monkey King Sun Wukong, because I'm a very big fan of any and all monkey business, and let's be real, you've all met me
I'm a funky monkey.
at a very Chinese time in my life. But
Oh,
you'll have to
that's
choose
not a good
quickly,
sign.
because time is limited. These bonuses are only available 48 hours after downloading Raid exclusively through my custom link or with the QR code on the screen. Oh, and also, join my clan, the Dank Brigade, while you're at it. I may be an absolute beast in the PvP arena, but one man can only do so much. Now, I know that this subject is Reddit tier and it's already been very widely covered on YouTube, but what we pride ourselves in on this channel is going on extremely deep dives and covering every single morsel of information and maybe uncovering some new information about the subject that most of you might not know, which is why all of my videos are usually more than half an hour to well
Right.
over an hour long.
Oh, hey, there you are, Shogar. How you doing?
And this story is just that mental that it definitely warrants that treatment. Hiro Onoda was descended from samurai, and
Of course it was.
his family gave everything to preserve that warrior spirit, with his
That's actually very honorable. Not just in the haha Japanese sense. But it's very honorable that to preserve your culture of your family, preserve your warrior culture. You're playing Bioshock, Shogar. Which one are you playing? Which Bioshock are you playing, Shogar? But it's admirable. It's actually honorable. I very much believe that's something you should do. But I imagine, considering this was Imperial Japan, I don't think it's going to end that well.
father being a cavalry sergeant
okay.
who
Bioshock
died
1,
in the
nice.
Second Sino-Japanese War, and Onoda the Younger having, quote, always been defiant and stubborn in everything I did.
Of course he did.
And in the business, you all know what that means. A few gamer moments for the Emperor later, and Onoda was drafted into the Japanese army in 1942. And likely because
The fuck did it just almighty lolly post here quickly? Okay. This is February 25th as of reading this. One of the Salamanca twins actors is a Twitch streamer and he's playing Resident Evil 9 tomorrow. Early release. Daniel Moncada is playing Resident Evil 9. Oh no. My Polish ancestors are smiling at me. Hey Kitschy, how you doing?
he had worked in China and spoke the language,
I am I'm excited for RE9 as much as the next guy is, but oh boy, that's gonna be fun.
was trained as an intelligence officer and taught sabotage, guerrilla warfare, and counterintelligence at the Nakano School. By the time Onoda was ready for action, he was a second lieutenant sent to Lubang Island in the Philippines on Boxing Day in 1944 to help hold off the inevitable American invasion. Sort of.
Right.
Because you see, by the time Onoda arrived, the writing was pretty much on the wall. So his job was less fighting the Yanks off and more just being as big a pain in the arse for them as he possibly could. Onoda's orders were to blow up the airfield and pier to prevent the Yanks from landing if they attacked, and therefore keeping them from making footholds in the Philippines.
So basically, you're just gonna die out here. Do what you can for the glory of the Emperor, but you're gonna die.
And making it harder for them to get to Japan. However, when the Yanks finally came on the 28th of February 1945, Onoda's orders were overridden by his superiors on the island, who opted to hold off the Americans for as long as they could while evacuating the island, not allowing Onoda to fulfill his orders. I think this decision by Onoda's superiors came from the fact that they were in a zero-sum game with the Americans on their doorstep. Because all Japanese soldiers had standing orders not to surrender under any circumstances. If the enemy wouldn't kill a Japanese soldier, the Japanese soldier had to do it himself.
Oh boy.
So why destroy your only way out and guarantee that you'll die when you could try and get some of your men out instead while going out in a glorious last stand?
I mean, fair enough. Kind of. Because, Jesus Christ, that's something to take it to that full extreme.
However, Onoda was no ordinary soldier, so he was not allowed such an easy way out.
Nope.
He said every Japanese soldier was prepared for death. But as an intelligence officer, I was ordered to conduct guerrilla warfare and not to die.
So just hold out till as long as I can.
Or, as the official order read, you are absolutely forbidden to die by your own hand. It may take 3 years, it may take 5, but whatever happens, we'll come back for you. Until then, so long as you have
that's a tall promise to hold.
one soldier, you are to continue to lead him. So, he did.
Yeah, of course he did.
As the Japanese soldiers who couldn't evacuate stood, fought, and died, Onoda retreated into the jungle in the mountains, taking 3 other guys with him. Corporal Shuichi Shimada, Private First Class Kenshichi Kazuka, and Private Yuichi Akatsu.
Man, that's some old bullshit. Unless they were absolute fanatics, which quite a bit of them that were fanatics, considering you're indoctrinated from childhood to believe the Emperor is a living god. I mean, Nippon Boy Summer is going to be indefinite.
And together, they were going to do whatever they could to hold the island until the Japanese army arrived with reinforcements or to relieve them. As Onoda and his men waited for this backup, they passed the time by getting up to hijinks.
Of course they did.
Fighting absolutely everyone they saw, conducting sabotage ops against farming infrastructure, and raiding said farms for rice, coconuts, bananas, and cattle meat to survive on.
So they're just being domestic terrorists at that point. Terrorists, not really domestic, but they were domestic targets. Terrorists, nonetheless, but not really guerrillas at that point.
The rest of their time was spent in hiding. As Onoda recalled, we switched camp every couple of days, carried all of our belongings with us, and hid all signs of ourselves from the islanders.
No, of course I did.
We were always on the move. Thankfully, there were plenty of camping options, as Onoda and the boys had 125 square kilometers to run around in. But that didn't mean that they had reason to be complacent, because, and I quote, "It was a nightmare to try and get a good night's sleep. I slept outdoors on mountain..."
Self-serving paranoia and the fact that you've pissed off a whole island of people that are not going to come for your ass because you're looting and raiding and burning down their shit. You're sleeping with one eye open at all times.
Slopes with a 10 to 15 degree inclination, because this...
I'm not defending what he's doing because, like, Christ. You're a pest. You're a domestic terrorist and a pest, but underneath some guise of some long-standing military wars. After the 10th year, maybe you gotta realize to yourself, or maybe the 6th year, you gotta realize, hey, they're not coming back for us.
This way, if I were awakened, I could quickly assess the situation without sitting up and see where the enemy was located. And who was this enemy? Well, Filipino troops, obviously. At first. Because you see, Japan took 2 very, very large, literally nuclear L's in the August of 1945.
Yeah. Yeah. I don't think they're even aware of the fact that, hey, also, America took Okinawa. One of, you know, the closest mainland colony islands to, sort of one of the closest colony islands to the mainland of Japan. That is, even though it has its own culture and roots and history, has been underneath has been underneath Japanese rule for how long? They took Okinawa. They took Iwo Jima, but especially Okinawa. Talking about taking the southern Korean peninsula. Not mentioning the Russians, which the Russians really didn't do much in terms of causing Japan to surrender, because their invasion of Mongolia and the basically northern Japanese territory didn't per se matter, considering we took 2 fucking nukes, and not mentioning the firebombing that obliterated most of Japan. You want to know something, like, in terms of, like, firebombing, if you compare American cities to Japanese cities of the time, the firebombing raids destroyed, burnt, and I believe killed 93% of Toyama, which is 93% of the population, which would be in compared to the best American city for equivalency at the time would be Chattanooga. So, one of the main railway junctions of the United States essentially gets obliterated, slaughtered, and burnt, and countless bombing raids. That's what happened to Toyama. I'm not even mentioning, like, this part of the Tokyo bombing raids. Like, we're not going to talk about how many died Tokyo bombing raids. Estimated up to, like, I believe it was like 600,000 to 800,000 in total. Like, it was fucking wicked. Fire tornadoes.
And Onoda wasn't exactly in a position to receive this news in a timely manner. So, even though the fighting dissipated and Onoda found himself getting into more firefights with police and civilians.
Oh, I'm sure the streamer called Tomcats, who I've never heard of, who is sure has never heard of me, wants to stream with me. Oh, I'm sure Mr. Looks like I just fucking slapped my keyboard around making numbers up. Get the fuck out of here. We also had Africa dances beforehand. African dancers trying to say, spam W in my chat. Get the fuck out of here. The kickbots are starting to pick up again. They were gone for the longest time, now they're coming back to pester me.
Instead of actual soldiers, it never occurred to him that the war had ended. As far as he and his boys knew, the Demonio Sa Bundok, the devils of the mountains, were still shooting at them.
Oh boy.
So they just kept doing their thing. There is
soldiers follow orders.
Little problem, however.
Yeah. I remember that was a pretty good arc in the Clone Wars episode, Clone Wars series. Still one of the better arcs. Not my favorite arc, but it's definitely one of the better ones.
I can't say that Onoda didn't get the memo, because he was actually sent a literal fucking memo.
You're not.
The Yanks knew that there were a lot of Japanese guerrilla units still running around in the jungle, completely cut off from all communications and civilization.
Right.
So they printed the big announcement onto leaflets and then airdropped them over the jungle.
Okay. By
chance, Onoda actually found one in October and instantly dismissed it as propaganda. Because the problem was that was a thing that rival countries did during the war.
That's fair.
Printed a bunch of lies on leaflets and then airdropped them over enemy countries.
So his immediacy into taking this would have been a grain of salt, but
try to demoralize and trick the enemy. So I don't actually blame Onoda at all for not believing it.
Neither do I.
Over time, the Americans dropped more editions of the announcement, including an official surrender order from General Tomoyuki Yamashita.
Right.
But Mr. Intelligence Officer concluded that this was also just a bunch of fake propaganda on the grounds that, as far as he knew, the Japanese would never surrender. Though,
What?
to be fair, they weren't really allowed to for a while. And also, to be fair to Mr. Onoda, he said the leaflets they dropped were filled with mistakes, so I judged it was a plot by the Americans.
Right. Fucking localizers.
Private Akatsu, however, was not endowed with...
See, this is why I'm so against localizers. You can't subtitle anime and manga correctly. You can't translate correctly. You fucking put your own shit in there. And even all the way back then, you were still hyper inaccurate with translations and on historical figures. So no shit, he's not gonna believe you.
such big-brained intelligence training.
Of course.
So he saw the repeated announcements of the war's end and orders to surrender, and he took the fucking hint.
I'm immune to propaganda.
He left the squad, roughed it up by himself for 6 months, then cried out, "I am a samurai, get me out of here!" and he surrendered in March of 1950.
Oh shit.
And after Akatsu surfaced, the Yanks realised, fucking hell, those guys are still fucking in there, and they are still going.
That's gonna be a problem.
Realising that they needed to really step up their efforts in holding Onoda's attention and showing him that the war is absolutely 100% super duper over, pinky promise, the Americans dropped current newspapers all over the jungle to show Onoda the new state of the world. However, this new world order was so alien to Onoda that he didn't believe the newspapers were real. So then, the Yanks started contacting Onoda and Co.'s families for letters to airdrop to them,
Right.
in which the boys' loved ones were begging them to stop their campaign. This didn't work either. According to Onoda, we found leaflets and photos from our families. I
Right.
assumed they were living under the occupation.
What? Oh, hello, H250. How are you? I'm sorry. Nippon what? Oh, they must be living underneath the occupation. They must be living underneath the occupation of the fucking America. Kind of true, but not exactly in the way he thinks, but they must be living underneath the occupation. They surely are being persuaded by the state to bring me out of the jungle and did you just get the right? No, I didn't skip the right ad. Bring me out of the state jungle and Nippon what? Nippon what? Excuse me? How much do you need an evidence?
And had to obey the authorities to survive.
How nostalgic seeing him do the ad again. Did you see when he pulled Lizzo in the ad?
I'm starting to think that Onoda just assumed that literally everything is propaganda, which is usually a safe bet.
Yes.
He's literally autistic.
Autistic and a midwit.
A kid, of course, because military indoctrination in Japan was a lot more akin to
Yep. Oh boy, yeah, especially that bit.
outright brainwashing. These guys were not black-pilled conscripts. They were ride-or-die true believers. And from their perspective, why would the war end?
Considering the fact he's also of samurai descent and they ingrained it in him. And his family basically ingrained it in him too, which I believe, once again, if you come from warrior lineage or a proud lineage, you should be able to be prideful of that, maintain its heritage, maintain the traditions, everything of the sort. He was religiously fanatic as the code was, and also the belief of the emperor being a living incarnate of a god.
The Emperor is literal, capital G, God.
Exactly.
Why the hell would he ever surrender? The idea alone would provoke a religious existential crisis. So anything
Which it did. Japan's not recovered from that since.
less than fighting to the very last man was inconceivable. And brother Onoda was going to be
He was the
that
perfect soldier,
last
yes.
man. He was so committed to not believing his lying eyes that when planes were flying overhead during the Korean War, he thought they were part of a Japanese counteroffensive.
I want to put it this way. By the time Onoda got to the island, Japan hadn't even built the first rocket prototype yet. The J-72 Shinden didn't even take off yet at this point. Which, the Shinden was a prop-driven aircraft. The Kika had not flown yet. He was even there before the Oka rockets kamikazes were being shot out from the Betty bombers. This man literally did not see a jet fighter in his life and just saw jets flying over his head and said, "Oh, that must be ours. Oh, glory to the Emperor." The fuck are you? My brother in Christ. What is it with you? Those with the United States symbols on them? They don't even have the massive rising sun on. Oh, you are a special case of retarded.
Against the Americans. And knowing that the Emperor still fought with him, Onoda went back to his own war, raiding and killing while trusting the Plan TM as fervently as ever. Not everyone was going to make it along the way though. In 1953, Shimada was shot in the leg by local fishermen. And while Onoda was successful in nursing him back to health, he was eventually killed by a search party that was looking for the squad on the 7th of May 1954.
Right.
Onoda himself was declared dead in 1959. But
Great.
those reports obviously were greatly exaggerated. While the outside world gave up, he and Private Kazuka remained fugitives, continuing their guerrilla war like a well-oiled machine, running on just the power of friendship. Onoda said, "We nearly always saw things the same way, and frequently we needed only to look at each other to decide."
Dudes rock a little too hard sometimes.
What we would do next. But while Onoda and his best friend had a good run by themselves for 18 years, Kozuka was sadly killed by Lubang police on the 19th of October 1972, while he and Onoda were burning a rice silo. Onoda may have been legally dead, but search parties were still after him.
So they were still trying to hunt him down. Probably have them wanting to kill him if they were Philippines, because I mean, for God's sake, he's been doing this shit for so long. It's like, it's best to know that he's dead.
And just like that, Onoda was all alone. Of about 60 Japanese holdouts that had been running around over the years, Onoda was among the last, and by far the most high profile. By this point, despite long being legally dead, Onoda's antics had gotten very hunt for the wilder people, with the sheer amount of interest and sympathy coming from the public as they tracked his reported sightings and activities, while also somewhat rooting for him. But there was one man who was much more dedicated to tracking Onoda than most.
So one man decided to hunt him down himself.
A Japanese explorer named Norio Suzuki. He's
got an interesting phenotype, I will say that. And he looks about as eccentric to do this type of thing.
He had set out to travel the world, declaring that he was looking for, quote, Lieutenant Onoda,
right?
A panda,
okay,
and the abominable snowman.
Nippon what? That's a bucket list. Okay. Yeah, sure. Onoda Panda Yeti is essentially, yeah. Pardon? Yeah. Um. Uh. I got a piece of treasure that he could also go hunting for. It's called the One Piece. I'll let him have that one too. Jesus Christ. I love cryptozoologists. I love these type of guys, but oh, and that is a jump of a bucket list. So I want this elusive but well documented case of a gorilla holdout. I want a granted at the time China was not leasing out the panda bears yet, and they were still somewhat wild and elusive, considering panda bears are practically retarded in their own domain. They're not exactly as... I mean, panda bears are just idiots in general. But it's still, like, that's a documented case of a very recognizable animal that's been well documented, and then the abominable snowman, which the amount of training it gets up the foot of Everest, not even getting to the peak of Everest, but like with Sherpas up to peaks of Nepal, where there's actual monks, where actual temples remain in villages on the mountainside. That takes a lot. Just wait, oh boy.
In that order.
Of course.
It only took him 4 days to strike one off the bucket list.
No shit.
Suzuki actually found Onoda on the 20th of February 1974 and only wasn't shot on sight because, to quote Onoda, if he had not been wearing socks, I might have shot him. The islanders would never do anything so incongruous. The ones who could afford to wear socks would have had shoes on too. Suzuki and the 52-year-old Onoda became fast friends, and as they got talking, Suzuki dropped a bombshell that changed Onoda's quest forever.
Right.
He said, "The Emperor and the people of Japan are worried about you."
Oh.
Well, if the Emperor is worried about him, then whoa.
Whoa.
That meant that Onoda was the Emperor's top guy. The Emperor needed him.
The Emperor needs me? Okay, Emperor. I'll do it for you, Emperor. I'll go to bat for you, Emperor Hirohito.
So Onoda responded in the only way that he could. Okay, I'll do it. I'll do it for you, Hirohito.
Fucking he's doing it.
Sort of.
Okay.
Onoda agreed to surrender.
Agreed.
But under one condition that suitably called Suzuki's bluff. He said, "This hippie boy Suzuki..."
I'm the Emperor's top guy. What am I gonna do? Oh, okay. I'll go for you. I'll go for you, Hirohito. I got your back, Hirohito.
came to the island to listen to the feelings of a Japanese soldier.
Right.
Suzuki asked me why I would not come out. I said that if the war was over and I received an order telling me to stop fighting, I would come out.
Okay.
Onoda made it abundantly clear that he would settle for no less than receiving orders from his superiors. Because, goddammit, banzai means banzai. But
I respect the hustle.
Onoda seemed to trust his new friend enough to let him hold his fucking rifle.
No shit.
So the latter said, bet, and returned to Japan with...
If you don't get his orders from me, you're gay. Bit.
Pictures of him and Onoda together in order to get the powers that be to convince Onoda to finally come fucking home. To that end, Onoda's former commanding officer, Major Yoshimi Taniguchi, who had long since retired into a...
Oh, fuck. Imagine this guy on the right. Oh, fuck. He looks so bewildered, and also you see the helicopter in the back, and we're like, he's just like, oh my god, why am I doing this?
Comfy job as a bookseller, had to fly out to the fucking Philippines to personally rescind the Never Surrender order
He became a bookseller. Oh, you love to hear that.
that he had given to Onoda, as issued by Lieutenant General Shizuo Yokoyama, and to relieve him of duty on the 9th of March.
Right.
When they finally met face to face, he said to Onoda, 1. In accordance with the Imperial Command, the 14th Area Army has ceased all combat activity. 2. In accordance with Military Headquarters Command number A-2003, the Special Squadron of Staff's Headquarters is hereby relieved of all military duties.
Good.
3. Units and individuals under the command of Special Squadron are to cease military activities and operations immediately and place themselves under the command of the nearest superior officer.
Okay.
When no officer can be found, they are to communicate with the American or Philippine forces and follow their directives. Onoda then said, "Hi, Rensho." And that was it.
Oh my god.
That was fucking it.
That's it?
He finally left the fucking jungle while still wearing the uniform that he'd kept in surprisingly very, very good condition for 29 years.
Jesus.
He saluted the flag of the country that he dedicated his life to and then surrendered his sword to...
That's it. He's still wearing his original uniform. Oh shit, he looks good.
President Ferdinand Marcos. The Arasaka Type 99 rifle that he laid down was so well maintained that it was as close to mint condition as it could be under the circumstances.
Oh my
He
god.
also still had 500 rounds.
Arasaka. Oh, dedication to the hustle. And so, do you think we go up Arasaka Tower in Night City with this Type 99 just to really stick it to him?
A few grenades, and a dagger gifted to him by his mother. The dagger was particularly special because his mother got him it so that he could kill himself.
My great uncle, cousin, and dad all killed themselves with the same 22 revolver. Another uncle was shot and paralyzed with it while playing with it as a kid. The kid that accidentally shot him was so terrified of what his dad would do when he found out. He went home and hung himself with a belt. My brother and me both wanted it, but the police released it to our stepmom and she won't give it up. That face when I'll never be able to kill myself with a family suicide gun.
Flawless victory for Hyperborean space stoners.
Well, I guess we got a follower on Kick. Would you please kindly honor yourself? Holy shit. Holy shit.
Even though the people of Lubang Island were very, very, very fucking unhappy that Onoda had killed
The guns and SCP, damn.
30 of them and left around 100 severely wounded, he was still pardoned by the Filipino government. Seeing this as a very grave injustice, that
I get where they're coming from too, and I'm actually in the camp of the Filipinos on this one, considering the amount of shit he did and the amount of people he killed. Equally too, he's one of those cases where it's like, he's one of those exceptional cases where you have to really leave it to the court of public opinion on who wants it back, when both countries are kind of like looking at each other. It's like, well, we want him dead, but you guys want him as a specimen.
Islanders wanted to fucking kill him, which I suppose isn't such an outrageous reaction, since the Filipinos are somewhat known for living in God's PvP arena.
Filipino feds, damn you badass, here's a part. More so of a case of, remember, the Philippines was going through a war close, or was getting ready to go have a boogaloo close to that time. I mean, they had a couple, but we're getting close to another one. Basically, the feds wanted any help they can get, or any foreign help they can get, and Japan happened to be slowly crawling its way out of its tough situation.
But obviously, the Filipino and Japanese authorities were
Sirius, the City Hunter video got re-released. Do you mean the Tall's City Hunter video? Yeah, that's good. Yeah, copyright struck the first time I remember that happening.
really, really looking to keep the hatchet buried. Hence, the pardon. So, a memorial/shrine was also erected on the spot where Kazuka died, which is dedicated to him in addition to the continuing peace between Japan and the Philippines. There is no such memorial for all of the islanders he killed, however.
Oh, that's no, there's a City Hunter video game that got released back in 1990, and it's being re-released. No shit. No shit. That might be something to look into. Again, I don't know if I have I don't know if I have the will or capacity to emulate it, but hey, that could be something.
Get fucking deft. While
Damn.
the Filipinos' response to the Onoda problem is perfectly understandable, the Japanese one is rather interesting. I mentioned before how the public got rather invested in Onoda's adventures, and
I mean, he is exceptional case of survivalist.
the way that they welcomed him home with his parents in attendance made it very, very
Holy shit.
clear that they
Imagine the shock of flying on that. 28 years, nearly 30 years in the wilderness, and you come out into this type of Japan.
saw Hiro as a hero. This is because over the years, the Japanese had latched onto Onoda as a bit of a relic of their more vitalistic past, which was
So, Onoda was kind of like... Let me pull up his name. Yukio Mishima. That's the way they perceived him as. Like Yukio Mishima. Where Japan was, once again, and he was right, the emperor surrendering caused a existential crisis on the Japanese people the likes they've never seen. Japan has had pretty rough time discerning what if they do want to become religious again or if they do want to have a religious culture again. Especially post-war. You had also a lot of pilots that were, you can talk about how many soldiers, pilots, children that were indoctrinated in the system for how many years, and then basically you had to go completely change that about after the war. It was a very touchy affair. And it was going to have a lot of hiccups too. Thankfully, there was more social and less violent ones, but they weren't good either way. Yeah, you mean, there is still holdouts of Japan's old imperial, and I'm talking about, because you gotta remember, the imperial Japan that we know, basically came about when the fall of the Anglo-Japanese pact basically fell through in the mid-20s with England. That's how Japan became so powerful in naval combat. So they're training in joint operations and joint training with the British. But the Americans, with the Anglos cutting that off, and the Americans basically pestering the Japanese, not really pestering, but more so cutting them off from trade and supply too, really led into a different idea of what Japan was, mixed with, you know, long-standing racial, and I mean, it's a counterpeg of things, but coming time of post-war Japan, that is they were having an identity crisis. One of the roots revive Oda Nobunaga's skeleton. Oh boy, oh yeah. But what I'm trying to say is that Japan essentially was, of course, in a state of crisis. Actually, so. And just like with any nation, you can see it nowadays, especially when you're in a state of crisis, we turn to the most hardcore military figures as a way to refine our masculinity. I mean, tough men, weak men will look for tough men, of course, naturally, which is a good thing, but depends on what we perceive as tough men may or may not be the good option. I mean, once again, I know it's such a meme and joke, and it's been long since gone now, but how many people initially bought into the red pill hype of, masculinity, because it was sold to them on a silver platter because they don't know what it was like to be a man, or don't remember what it was like to be a man or be an unabashed man, being an unabashed man. So they latched on the worst people then. They will also believe in eat with a spoon cases of people that were complete frauds and weren't and sold the warrior and packaged and sold a warrior mentality, even though they were themselves never served. I mean, there's that one boot camp that Unsubscribed podcast covered was basically run by a dropout of the Navy program, not even Navy SEAL, but like a dropout of the Navy program. And he basically stole the Navy's ring the bell at the end if you failed mentality, and he also basically ended up killing 2 or 3 guys from this program, and the guy himself never served. He could not make it past basic. You see this. You do see this quite a bit. Just trying to direct it in the right way possible, trying to find the right heroes, but I don't think...
was a big boost to morale that was very, very...
I mean, I guess they were trying to find it in him, but he's a weird case as well.
Much needed, because the Japanese people weren't doing very well economically or spiritually in the 70s.
Okay, yeah, fair enough. In the 70s, economically, Japan, this is before the boom phase. I mean, they were crawling their way up, but it was still a case of, there was the fucking 70s. There was a global recession.
Essentially, Onoda helped them remember who they were, because he exemplified...
As you could say, he reminded them of who they really were. It's not like you to say sorry. Got another different story. This time I'm mistaken for handing you a heart worth breaking. I've been wrong, I've been down to the bottom of every bottle. There's 5 words in my head. Scream out, we haven't forget. We were samurai / cowboys, yeah.
Virtues of loyalty and courage. And when he came home, it was seen as a bit of a healing moment for the
We were knights of the round table and such.
Japanese people. As government spokesman Yoshihide Suga recalled, I vividly remember that I was reassured of...
Don't hit me with that Clone Wars. Don't hit me with the episode of Clone Wars. Mission, the nightmares.
The end of the war when Mr. Onoda returned to Japan. Being a man with a hell of a story, Onoda published a memoir titled No Surrender, My 30-Year War.
Right.
Which proved a little bit controversial for not focusing
Naturally
on
would
or
be.
really even mentioning all of the Filipino civilians that he killed.
These are just gamer moments. My brother in Christ, he killed 30 people.
The closest he came to even addressing them...
30 civilians, by the way.
Saying that, and I quote, the 18 years that Kazuka and I spent together were the ones in which I was most actively engaged in guerrilla tactics. But is it really Onoda's fault that these guerrilla tactics necessarily entailed killing civilians, especially when they were also shooting at him, destroying supplies and infrastructure, and generally...
Wait, they were civilian? They looked at me funny.
Being a big fucking menace? Or is that just the tragic reality of total war? Some veterans also accused Onoda of lying about some of his antics, and the book's own ghostwriter even came out and disavowed Onoda's courage and heroic status.
Right.
Now, I would hardly...
They were armed. To be fair, this was the Philippines at the time. They did have firearms, to be fair. They were farmers. They would have firearms for pest control. That is true. Onoda, they were still civilians.
Deny the bravery it would have taken for Onoda to survive all by himself for so long. But to be fair, while we can argue about whether Onoda was a hero or not until the cows come home,
it wasn't a hero, but damn, what he did was impressive.
Impossible to deny that Onoda was used as propaganda to a certain degree. According to Tokyo University's Professor of Foreign Studies, Naoko Sirius, Onoda was greeted as a hero, but he was at the same time seen as a victim. and
Right.
then criticised as the embodiment of militarism.
Fair.
When you
It's
become a
complicated.
symbol like Onoda did, your deeds sort of stop being entirely your own. So, of course, critics of whatever regime or movement has adopted you as their own will start taking it out on you.
Mm-hmm.
Personally, I don't think any of it would have even been that deep for Onoda himself. I think that he simply did what he had to do with the hand that he was dealt. And it's not his fault that militarism captures the imaginations of ritually humiliated people because of how badass it is.
Yeah. Christ. I don't think I've ever wanted to join the armed forces more than I do right now, or join a proper military force. I do, especially when I was in my most oppressive state. Kind of even now, it's a case of you want to find purpose, belonging, brotherhood, things that we feel isolated in a downtrodden culture. And it's downtrodden society especially. It really does create fanaticism amongst the downtrodden and, well, it's the fanaticism around it. It's not the actual actions of joining up. It's the fanaticism in, especially those that consume nothing but military stuff. The ones that LARP, especially. They don't have the bravery, nor the courage, nor the discipline to actually go through the program. But they're the ones that want to LARP and be the most fanatic about it. Equally, too, being hyper-militaristic is not going to be the best way for a society to run either way. It's great for a strong society and strong security, but it's not the end-all be-all.
Besides, the Geneva Convention doesn't actually apply to police officers. So, it's not as if Onoda committed any war crimes by shooting them. Also, I think that's a very important thing for people to know. The Geneva Convention doesn't apply to police officers. But despite having been treated rather well during his 15 minutes of fame, they couldn't quite make up for the almost
glowing in the dark
30 years that Onoda missed. And he struggled to cope with the ways that Japan had changed in his absence.
I mean, good lord. That's why I legit felt like not recommending it. I mean, it's dankily being dankily. You also gotta remember, too, Dankula is saying this especially from his end of the corruption, especially of the UK police force, with their assistance in covering up rape gangs and migrants. In the invaders' rape gangs, and well, U-Tree didn't knock out especially certain groups of people, including Andrew. But Andrew's a whole different other case. But we talk about like Rottingham, or even talk about the police got involved in the rape gangs, the cover-ups, everything involved. Especially the fact that, you know, of course, the police come at you for your freedom of speech. Dank's got a bit more of a, remember how much he's had stripped away from him too in his time. Sometimes when you don't have as much to lose, or don't really have that much to lose, you say some spicier things.
For instance, there are some excerpts from his book which outline his dislike for the boomer truth regime imported by the US.
Of course.
If you have some thorns in your back, somebody needs to pull them out for you. We need bodies. The sense of belonging is born in the family, and later includes friends, neighbors, community, and country. That is why the idea of a nation is really important. History is written by the victors. Since the end of World War II, Japanese history education is based on the US war guilt program and left-wing propaganda.
I get that, it's just considering how many people are fighting against ICE and the authorities I would not tell people to do that. No, I get that entirely on your end, H250. Different circumstances, different countries, right? Because the police in the United States who want to help ICE have their hands tied in certain districts and cities, and ICE officers are being subjugated to violent actions regardless of this knowledge. There's not really much adding this would add flame to the fire. Not like I'm not even promoting this ideal either. Fuck's sake. Anyway, going back to what he's talking about here, it's like, Jesus Christ, man. I know people like to say Japan didn't, well, for the most part, they didn't really get guilted post-war. And there's a thing, I say we can learn from history of a nation. You don't need to, for the end of days, 80 years included, flog yourself as a nation, or for a couple 100 years, even 100 years later, flog yourself as a nation over some shit that happened in an isolated case with isolated people in an isolated incident or isolated events. It doesn't define your whole nation. Looking at you, Germany. Right? And again, if you want to destroy culture, you want to make a nation to a bunch of field slaves, that's how you do it. I get it, I do despise whenever I hear about the British Corps, though. The British cops, though. Oh, yeah. The British, the Tommies are a bit of a different breed.
I don't blame the US for this. They wanted a weak Japan, and their mission is accomplished.
By the way, just as an aside, if we hadn't ended the Anglo-Japanese alliance in 1923 just to placate the Americans, none of this would have happened.
The more I think about it, this is a case of 50-50. 50-50, because the Japanese were on the side of the Entente in the First World War. In the theaters that would be when Germany would operate some maritime fleets down the Pacific off their colonies. And I want to say this, I don't think, if we're going about alternative history, which is in itself is its own rabbit hole, and you can spin it a million which way is a Sunday, but even realize that what we only have historically in context is not going to always equate to the actual outcome of the situation. There's too many outcomes of this. I'm leaning that it would be a 50-50 gamble whether or not they became the way they did. I do like he uses the use of Naruto's sadness name. Of course he fucking... Okay, well, do you really think it's Dankla, or do you think it's one of his editors, especially Africa-chan? Because Africa-chan is the one that's the most autistic of his editors, who fucking does weird shit like this.
Onoda is also quoted as saying that Japan's philosophy and ideas changed dramatically after World War II.
Of course it
That
did.
philosophy clashed with mine, so I went to live in Brazil. Yes, in 19...
And here's the funny bit, too. Okay, if you've seen enough classic anime, I mean classic, like 1990s, 80s anime, early 2000s too, but mainly 90s and 80s. Brazil is very, very integrated in Japanese entertainment and media through references because Japan had an enclave. Much like the Germans do still in Brazil, the Japanese have that as well in Brazil and Latin America. There's a couple enclaves. Kind of spreading out to escape the woes of the nation, go to more tropical and cheaper places to live, to start a family, and to kind of live a bit more of a homestead lifestyle. That's what a lot of Japanese people did. You don't even know this too. A lot of Japanese jazz and funk musicians also, and I mean when I say funk, I'm talking about proper funk, not the funk or the reggaeton funk shit. I'm talking about the actual funk, like actual funk soul music. A lot of those guys went and performed and collaborated with Brazilian jazz artists a lot. Because ask me, because I'm a guy who has a weird fascination with Japanese funk, groove, jazz, and soul. A lot of them went down south. Is that why there are Japanese people in Hawaii? No, funny enough, Japan being in Hawaii is like it's more, well, it's a weird thing between recent, because that was before the war. You remember, the reason why there's so many Japanese in Hawaii is, like, even before the Second World War, a lot of Japanese people that wanted to leave mainland Japan, when as it was developing into Imperial Japan, wanted to get a better education and wanted to go live in the land of prosperity, which was the United States. Hawaii, being one of the close, being at the time being, it was a, I don't think Hawaii was a state at the time. I think it was an actual just colony. But it was to a point where it was more lenient for them to be able to immigrate there. It was also closer to what they were used to, and cheaper in fares to move to Hawaii. And Hawaii was also being settled in as a new home. So a lot of Japanese, some farmers, but a lot of Japanese people and scholars went down to Hawaii after being either taught in California or taking their prerequisites and moving down to Hawaii and learning English. There was massive enclaves of Japanese in Hawaii. So it's a pretty strange, it's actually pretty interesting how far they spread out, just like the Germans did when it came to Brazil. But I don't blame them for going out to Brazil. When I say back about Japanese media, though, is that you can see also a lot, I mean, capoeira being so prevalent in Japanese video game, like in their fighting games and in their series and manga and anime, for Christ's sake. I put it this way, Black Lagoon, Fabiola Iglesias, who, even though she's Venezuelan, uses capoeira. When she was introduced in 2004. You're talking about Johnny in Tekken. He uses capoeira. He's been using that for years, like since the 90s. This obsession with Brazil is not even like a weird fascinated obsession with that part of Latin America. It is literally because a lot of commingling with the Japanese and the Brazilians happened.
1975, Onoda emigrated to Brazil to run a ranch and
Dagula, what plans do you have?
their Japanese expat community. You see, Onoda had developed an interest in cattle breeding whilst in the jungle after listening to a story about it on a shortwave radio that he stole in 1965.
Oh, that's interesting.
Also enjoyed ABC Radio Australia.
Huh.
And he listened to one of their election broadcasts, and hold on a fucking minute.
Oh, fuck.
He had a fucking radio in the jungle, and he still couldn't figure out that the war was fucking over.
Oh
Other
my
than a personal
god.
appeal from the Emperor himself, conveyed by a nutty Yeti hunter, what evidence would Onoda have ever fucking
Source? What's the source?
accepted? Well, a documentary filmmaker named Mia Stewart would say, more than you'd think. Because she, quote, believes that Onoda actually knew the war was over early on. But he continued to engage in guerrilla warfare, terrorizing the island. And civilians became victims of his delusion and his continued violence. I mean, she might have a point. Even if her acknowledgement of Onoda being delusional suggests that he didn't actually know that the war had ended. The idea that some of the holdouts actually knew the truth all along is hardly a stretch. Since
Exactly.
Ichi Yokoi, who lived in a little underground hideout in Guam until 1972, admitted that he'd actually found out that the war was over in 1952 and was just
Not gonna lie, Mia Stewart's kind of cute. I mean, yeah? Hang on. Second. Hang on. Mia Stewart. Who's Mia Stewart again? Mia Stewart. Is it the filmmaker? The Filipino filmmaker lady, right? Go back. Oh. Hang on.
terrorizing the island.
Exactly.
And civilians, I mean, she might have a point, and his continued violence. I mean, came engage in guerrilla warfare. because a chick named Mia Stewart would say,
H250, your taste is yours, but I think you're falling for the blonde highlights. Filipino chicks don't really do it for me. Not my thing. Most Southeast Asian chicks don't typically do anything for me. It's your pick, your choice. I don't know. Could be.
Jess, that he didn't actually know that the war had ended.
Yeah, you like the Americanized Asian girls. When I say Americanized, not like the, you know, not the ones that are living, not the California Valley ones I'm talking about. You like, your vision's kind of messed up as well. That could be too. You could have permanent beer goggles. I mean, I like gyarus. I like all forms of gyarus and more like delinquent, westernized Asian girls, if you will, but I don't know about that one, bucko.
The idea that some of the holdouts actually knew the truth all along is hardly a stretch, since Shuichi Yokoi, who lived in a little underground hideout in Guam until 1972, admitted that he'd actually found out that the war was over in 1952 and
Holy
was
shit.
too scared or embarrassed to surrender.
Uh,
Could Onoda maybe have sort of went, "Oh, the war was over? Oh, wow, no, you're telling me this right now for the first time." I don't know. It's hard to know
I mean, he seemed very, very adamant he stuck by his... He might be actually just autistic.
for certain what was going on in Onoda's head. The Japanese martial doctrine was absolutely fucking crazy,
That too.
and being a spook and an officer, Onoda was right in that midwit sweet spot of credentials and
Why, you fool? It's the educated reader who can be gulled. All our difficulty comes from with the others. When did you meet a workman who believes the papers? He takes it for granted. They're all propaganda and skips the leading article. He buys his paper for football results and the little paragraphs about girls falling out windows and corpses found in Mayfair Flats. He is our problem. We have to recondition him. But the educated public, the people who read the highbrow weeklies, don't need reconditioning. They're all ready already. They'll believe anything. C.S. Lewis, that he is strength. They get to interact with the new hire with one of the Japanese restaurants I hang out a few times, and she's from Kyoto, apparently. Huh. That's cool. We don't get Japanese students where I am anymore, but we used to. I almost had a weird case where I almost ended up taking two best friends out on a date at the same time. That got a little bit weird, and they thought I was trying to be a player, and I'm like, it was an honest mistake. You both swiped on me, you're both talking to me, and then they're like, oh, so you're like you're like every other American man, or you're like every other Canadian man that thinks they can play, and I'm like, honey, girls, I'm not trying to. I won't mind taking you on both on a coffee or like separately, but like I'm not trying to. I'm not even a player. Like, Christ's sake, I just, I don't know. You're both cute. You both swiped on me. Okay, I swiped back on you. That I said I'd like to take you on a coffee. That's literally all it is.
dogma, where intuition and common sense functionally no longer existed. So his brain would have just been absolutely fucking fried because, whether deliberately or not, the man was clearly psyoping himself.
Yep, he basically did
Combine
himself.
that with constantly being in hardcore survival mode for almost 3 decades, and it gets a little bit hard to tell where the line is as far as pleading ignorance is concerned. But while Onoda was having his time in the jungle scrutinized, Suzuki went on to find his panda. But sadly, he died in an avalanche while searching the...
Ladies, you're both cute, but I'm not the one who picked me. Serious, the player. I remember getting, like, girls that swiped on me during 2023 because I looked like Leon Kennedy, like, unironically, because, like, my hair, and I had, like, the build and the face. And it's just kind of like, ladies, I'm flattered, but I'm a single girl type of guy.
Himalayas for the
Do a
Abominable
backflip.
Snowman in 1986. Sadly, the Yeti had already been dealt with about 50 years prior. Meanwhile, despite having spent far, far too long in the wilderness to fit into his home, Onoda stayed locked in, and he lived life to the fullest. He said, "Without that experience, I wouldn't have my life today. I do everything twice as fast so I can make up for the 30 years. I wish someone could eat and sleep for me so that I can work 24 hours a day." At one point, he even toured the United States and danced with a Playboy bunny who absolutely hype-mogged him.
She's wearing heels. She's wearing heels. They're probably the same height. But yeah, no. Good on you, man. He just looks so. You can even see his hand. He's not even touching her. Like he's just kind of like awkwardly hover handing her. You know what? Very gentlemanly of him.
Oh, and also in 2010, the Lubang Jungle became a tourist attraction.
No shit.
Featuring a hiking route called the Onoda Trail and Cave.
Uh-oh.
Which I think is just as ironic as
What
Yank.
the fuck is this woman? The dream, being Japanese, chatting, getting to dance with a bunny. I think, Hirohito, forgive me. Onoda ni definitely. He was trying to act gentlemanly. I will admit that he was trying to act like a gentleman. I do like that.
Going to Vietnam for guiding
From our Vietnam trip, our guide popped out of a VC tunnel, jokingly scared the vet's dad, yelled at him for 10 minutes. Oh, for fuck's sake.
tours of all the traps, foxholes, and tunnels that helped their granddads develop a crippling fear of fireworks and menus. It also seemed like Onoda had no regrets whatsoever about his experience, because, and I quote, "I became an officer and I received an order. If I could not carry it out, I would feel shame. I am very competitive." He also said that, "I was fortunate that I could devote myself to my duty in my young and vigorous years." So it's no wonder that he returned to Japan in literally 1984 when duty called once again.
Oh.
Onoda was compelled to come home after reading a story about a boy who had murdered his own parents. And so...
Competitive Call of Duty. Oh, no. Which one of you guys in the Discord played Call of Duty on veteran mode and then you guys got Lolly to play it? And one of you motherfucker, was it on the level who did that? Because he was dealing with the fucking Iwo Jima mission, or what? Which mission was it when we got bombarded with grenades? Oh god. Oh no, it would have been one of those motherfuckers.
He decided to help with guiding the next generation in a more positive direction. And in his own rugged, old-fashioned style, he did this by setting up Onoda Shinzen Itadakimasu. Like, I fucking hate reading out foreign languages.
Slowly, Dank.
Shizenjuku training camps to teach boys survival and camping skills.
So, a more militarized version of Boy Scouts. That can work.
Somewhat akin to Johnny Lawrence starting Cobra Kai to drag Miguel and Daniel LaRusso out of the Longhouse and make the demoralized...
Are you one of those challenge kids? Doctor said I could be on the spectrum. I don't know what that is, but get off it pronto, alright?
Next generation badass again. In the spirit of reconciliation, Onoda also went back to Lubang in the 90s and he donated $10,000 to a local school. According to Charles Villas, the vice mayor of one of the municipalities on the island, what the people of Lubang remember now is how Onoda came to visit in the early 1990s and donated musical organs and school supplies like Japan-made crayons, watercolours and pencils to the churches and schools here in Lubang.
Charitable of him. Not gonna say it's gonna redeem him of all his sins, but he's trying to make a broker a deal of peace.
I have a feeling that the islanders themselves and their descendants probably wouldn't agree. One
No.
such descendant, Mia Stewart, decided
There she
to
is.
make a documentary titled Searching for Onoda, wherein she said, "The thing that I want to bring out is the resilience of the island and the Filipino people as a whole."
That is true.
This particular aspect was naturally very important to Stuart because Onoda had actually killed her great uncle.
Oh. Shit. I know how this feels. You know how I feel about the Soviets. That's similar sentiment to her. About same type of family member too.
She elaborated that Onoda's squad were seen as a pest, thieves, and killers because, quote, there was a shadow cast on the islanders' lives. They couldn't go and farm. They couldn't harvest without the fear of being attacked. Children couldn't go and play out at a certain time. The value of their land and farmland was essentially reduced. They weren't able to be
Stewart versus Onoda, the great encounter.
as productive on their farms without the threat of someone being killed. They were taking their lives into their own hands whenever they ventured out. Another thing that Stuart wanted to make clear, which Onoda neglected to mention, was that the killings were rather grisly.
Yeah. Remember, he had 500 rounds of ammunition. Someone tells me he wasn't using ammo to kill.
Often at close quarters with knives, and that some of the bodies were found decapitated amongst burning fields. I know that shock and awe is a key aspect of his particular mission, but all of that sounds more like a chimpanzee's MO than guerrilla warfare.
It was jumping out.
All this is to say that you can hardly blame Stuart for being a little bit mad at Onoda.
Yeah.
And since he agreed to an interview in 2014, she went all the way to Japan to confront him in person.
Right.
However, the 91-year-old Onoda died right before doing the interview.
That was gotta be the biggest fuck you in history. From fate alone.
But hey,
Well, in recent history.
that is a hell of an age. And it's good to know that he got to more than make up for all of that time that
You could not even tell he was that man.
had lost. This threw Stuart for a bit of a loop, leaving her, quote, very lost because I had messages from the islanders in my head. And I was ready to confront him with all of their pain and ask him about his time on the island, and whether or not he really knew that the war was over. Instead of getting catharsis and a climax for her film through the interview, Stuart attended Onoda's memorial service, which she found to be a surreal experience. Helpfully,
Speaking of chimps drinks up for Jane Goodall, what happened with her? What happened to Jane? She passed away? Oh. Oh, yeah. The one that... Oh, her. Right. Just, October of last year. October 1st of last year. Jesus. Yeah. Or went out for Goodall. Yeah.
everyone in Onoda's life that she spoke to were very, very nice to her. And they were more than willing to give Stuart the other side of the story, though they seemed completely unaware of exactly what had gone down on Lubang. I feel like I should mention that while Onoda was by far the highest profile of these Japanese holdouts, he wasn't the last.
Nope.
That distinction goes to Teruo Nakamura, who was found on Morotai in Indonesia a few months after Onoda had surrendered. While Nakamura was in the Japanese army, he was actually Taiwanese, and he didn't end up going on his own crazy guerrilla war like Onoda and his friends did. Instead, he just built a little hut for himself and grew some crops.
Dude's rock.
He wasn't really sure what was going on with the whole war thing, so he just decided to play Stardew Valley IRL and just vibe. In the end,
Good on
like
him.
most people, I find Onoda to be
Not gonna lie, knowing that they never got to meet kind of felt like weird and satisfying. Yet knowing she was able to see his memorial, kind of fitting, yeah. Because you can confront her. I mean, she didn't confront his family about what he did, but they kind of understood. I mean, they'd probably understand, like, hey, in post, like, he's not exactly a good guy, but he also is confused in his own right in some way. Again, they don't even know either, so it would be kind of ill-fitting to do so.
a mixed bag of a character. Sure, he arguably achieved one of the all-time greatest feats of survivalism, but like in any account of Japanese military history, it's hard to ignore the egregious gamer moments along the way. Like I've said very, very many times before, the Japanese are absolute fucking animals during wartime.
Yeah.
Werner Herzog of Cute Creatures fame was right to describe Onoda as an epic Robinson Crusoe character who spent years in an absurd yet epic struggle. I need to work on that. Though I would say that it's more philosophically absurd than just ridiculous and silly, because all of it was really for nothing. Other than some propaganda boosts for the demoralised Japanese and their detractors getting to put a brighter spotlight on their war crimes, all that really resulted from this entire adventure was that Onoda lost almost 30 years of his life, and Lubang lost 30 people.
Yeah.
Sure, Onoda is a great example of grit, loyalty, and resilience, but ultimately, nothing actually came of any of this.
No.
So many people over the years have tried to rationalize and describe some kind of deep meaning to Onoda's adventure.
There's nothing.
And I'm sure that I'll have at least one internet tough guy TM in the comments saying that it's Nietzschean or something. But the
Lord
entire-
Emperor of the United States Gondor calls for aid. Okay. One person a year ain't that bad. I mean, technically speaking, since he was no longer in a state of war, would he be considered a serial killer?
affair was just deeply unfortunate for everyone involved. Onoda was not really a hero, but not a monster either. Kind of. He was simply a survivor. And
Fair.
regardless of ideology, values, or whatever morals anybody wants to project on him aside, in the barren Spenglerian winter of the real world, what else can one
Definitely,
do?
why not? Lord Emperor of the United States, who are you hailing from? Like, are you raiding in, or are you just from some random chat? Where are you coming from? Yeah, he's just a good soldier. Yeah, that was Count Dankless video on Onoda. I'm gonna move on from that. Move on to some other stuff.